Oh, howdy all, grab yourself a beer, it's time for some Path of Exile discussion. Today, what I want to do is have a look at the brand new skill that's being added in the 3.15 Expedition expansion, Forbidden Rite, and give my sort of first initial thoughts as to some of those strategies that you might use if you're wanting to build around this interesting and very different skill. Now, I want to start this with a very important warning. Forbidden Rite is probably the single least League Start friendly skill that I've ever seen. What I mean by that is that even though you do get access to this skill as early as level 16, broadly speaking, using it is going to be a terrible, terrible, terrible idea until you've been able to set up some endgame defenses on your character. There's a couple of options that you'll have, but broadly speaking, I think you're probably not going to want to try to use the skill at all until you're at least like level 75, at which point you might consider using a Chaos Inoculation version of this skill. But more likely, I think, you probably want to hold off until you're about level 85 to 90 with 5 or 6 exalts available and the ability to trade for a few good items. You'll see why that is in a sec. So firstly, let's have a look at what the skill does. So this is the video that Chris Wilson posted. This is just basically some gameplay footage of someone using the skill. Watch the character that's casting the spell's life and energy shield during this, as you'll see that casting Forbidden Rite is going to savagely inflict damage on the caster. At first, you're going to see a low-level character attempting and failing to use it. Then after that, you'll see a high-level character using it well.
Forbidden Rite is a powerful new spell that fires an exploding chaos projectile at a targeted area. It also targets a selection of enemies in an area around the player's location and fires projectiles at them too. But be careful, Forbidden Rite also inflicts damage on you when cast. If you can find a clever way to mitigate this harmful downside, you'll have devastating and widespread damage at your fingertips.
Okay, so that's basically the extent of the of what was given to us in terms of GGG's information on how this skill works. What I've been able to tell, this second character that's using it is using the unique chess piece Shavronne's wrappings and has a very large amount of chaos resistance. They are reserving most of their life, which means that they're able to run additional auras. And I think this is a pretty solid way to start building around this skill. Shavronne's wrappings is not a common item. It's in the second tier of rarities, and it's a sort of item that can cost a couple of exalted orbs, even unlinked at the start of a league. And so for that reason, I do not think that this is going to be a new player-friendly skill. It's something that you're going to want to swap into when you are well established in the league. With that in mind, though, let's have a look at the stats on the gem. And now we only have level 1 stats at the moment. I'm going to make some estimates here. And the estimates I'm going to make is that the flat chaos damage scales with gem level, but the rest of the stats have minimal scaling with gem level. So I could be wrong on that front, and if I am, we will know about it next week. So I'm going to speculate that the flat chaos damage, the 15 to 23 chaos damage that's added, that will skyrocket as you level a gem up. So let's have a look at what this is doing. So it lobs exploding projectiles near the targeted location and additionally fires projectiles to enemies around you. The projectiles deal chaos damage based upon your life and energy shield, and casting this spell damages you. So it deals, you take 40% of your maximum life and 25% of your maximum energy shield as chaos damage. Now remember that chaos damage bypasses your energy shield under normal conditions. So this means that if you have, let's say that you're at, your character's maximum life is 5,000, you're going to take 2,000 damage, and that's going to slip past your energy shield. Let's say additionally you've got 2,000 energy shield, you're going to take another 500 damage, and this is going to entirely bypass your energy shield. So you are going to be taking a very, very, very large amount of damage there. So that's the downside that we need to mitigate, and we need to work out a solution in order to protect ourselves from that. The reward, though, is that you're getting 5% of your maximum energy shield as base chaos damage and 12% of your maximum life as base chaos damage. So this is interesting. You'll notice that there's a higher payoff for having maximum life than there is for having energy shield. And one of the things I think they're trying to do here is make it so that Forbidden Rite does not get its full power on a Chaos Inoculation character. Chaos Inoculation is one of the keystones on the passive tree, it sets your maximum life to 1 and renders you outright immune to chaos damage. So if you're using Chaos Inoculation, then you can use Forbidden Rite, and whilst you're taking lots of damage, that damage isn't actually applied to you because you're immune to it. So that's the first option that you've got. However, I'm not that keen on this setup. The reason for that is that if you are using Forbidden Rite on a Chaos Inoculation character, let's say you're a level 75, you've just spec'd into Chaos Inoculation. In my experience at this point, you're going to have maybe 5,500 to 6,000 energy shield. With 5,500 to 6,000 energy shield, you're only doing 275 to 300 base chaos damage here. That's not nothing, but it's nothing amazing either. And so I think you can do better by not being Chaos Inoculation. So how do you manage this massive downside? Well, you are going to need to overcap your Chaos Resistance. Chaos Resistance is one of those defensive stats that a lot of players don't invest heavily in, although it has become more important in recent leagues. There are a few ways that you can both up your Chaos Resistance and also receive other rewards for doing that. So, the first thing I want to talk about is Divine Flesh. Divine Flesh is a keystone passive that is available in 2 ways. The first way is on the unique shield Mahoxidal's Machination, which has a lot of other effects as well, and which may not be available at all in 3.15. So we're just going to act like Mahoxidal's Machination doesn't exist. But then we have Glorious Vanity. Glorious Vanity is a timeless jewel. I did an extensive discussion of this video in a video that I will link down in the description below. Sorry, I did an exhaustive discussion of that jewel in a video that I will link down below. But one of these jewels that has that's got the right name on it will grant will turn every keystone within its radius on the passive tree into a copy of Divine Flesh. The key thing Divine Flesh does, well, it has 3 effects, and actually all of them would be important to a build that is using this skill. So firstly, all damage taken bypasses energy shield. So that means that you're not spending your energy shield normally. This is, broadly speaking, a drawback on Divine Flesh, and it's going to be no different with this skill. Although, yeah, it means that you'll still have your energy shield. You can spend it on other things, though. You can spend it with something like Eldritch Battery if you want. Then you'll have 50% of elemental damage taken as chaos damage. This is a defensive layer if your elemental resistances are lower than your chaos resistance. If they're lower than your chaos resistance. If your elemental resistances are higher than your chaos resist, then this ends up being a drawback. But for anyone that takes Divine Flesh, you're going to have your chaos resistance be as high as possible. Then you get plus 5% of maximum chaos resistance, and that's why this works. So, you're going to want to get Divine Flesh, which means you need to get yourself a Glorious Vanity Timeless Jewel. This can be very difficult outside of a Trade League economy, because it only drops from Vaal-themed Legion encounters, and it's a pretty rare drop too. However, if you're in a Trade League, you can pick it up. It'll probably cost you a few exalts in the first week of the league, and then it'll crater to 20 or 30 chaos in the middle of the league. So, that's your starting point. You want to then have Glorious Vanity. You're going to be playing a build that is predominantly defending itself with life. So you're going to want to wear normal life gear. You're not going to be looking to particularly stack energy shield in any way. Although, you'll take it if you get it, because it will add to the damage that your primary skill does, your Forbidden Rite is doing. So then you're going to need to overcap your chaos resistance further as well as cap it. So the best way to do that is going to be through cluster jewels. Small cluster jewels have the ability to have an enchant on them that grants plus 12% to chaos resistance for each node that you take. You don't want a bunch of these chaos resistance nodes, and so you're going to want to source multiple of these chaos resistance small cluster jewels. And then one of the things that they can roll is a notable named Born of Chaos. Born of Chaos will increase your maximum chaos resistance by a further 3%. So with Divine Flesh and with 2 copies of Born of Chaos, you're looking at having a maximum chaos resistance of 86%. And then get an extra 1% through the Soul of Steel keystone. And there's a number of other things that you can do to pump your chaos resistance up further. You might investigate the unique shield Sapphire's Frame. You might investigate looking for corrupted amulets that have +1 to all maximum resistances as well. But those are a bit rarer and a bit harder to get than just getting Soul of Steel. So That's the defensive side of maximizing your chaos resistance cap. You can also use more copies of Born of Chaos if you want. Then you need to actually fill out that chaos resistance. You're going to need to have most pieces of your gear have chaos resistance on them. And in addition, you're going to need to use three passive cluster jewels in order to get that maximum chaos resistance up. In order to get your chaos resistance up to your new maximum. Once you do that, though, I think it's perfectly reasonable to assume that by the time you're like level 92, 93 with maybe 7, 8, 9, 10 exalts invested, you could conceivably have your maximum life be in the 6,000 to 6,500 range, then have maybe 1,500 energy shield. So when you cast this spell, the amount of chaos damage you're doing to yourself, let's say you've got 6,500 and 1,500 respectively. So 6,500, 40% of that is 2,600 chaos damage to yourself, plus you're dealing 375 based on your energy shield. So you're dealing 2,975 chaos damage to yourself. If you're sitting at 86% chaos resistance, that's only about 400 self-inflicted damage. That's painful, but it's manageable. And you can certainly find ways to replenish that life. And then you're being rewarded for that by getting 12% of your maximum life, which is 780, plus 5% of your ES. That's a total of 855 added chaos damage that you're dealing with this spell. So that's a lot of damage. That's a lot of base damage for something that has quite good screen coverage as it is. After that, there's all sorts of options that you've got for, for sort of scaling up the damage projection and the damage through support gems. Because there's quite an overhaul happening to support gems in 3.15, I'm not going to make any predictions as to exactly what we're going to do there. That's going to be something we'll have to work out closer to the expansion launch. Anyways, that's my initial thoughts on Forbidden Rite. What ascendancy would I play this with? Some people have been discussing this a bit on Path of Exile's builds subreddit, and there's no real consensus at the moment. Some people think that Occultist is the way to go. Some people like Juggernaut. Juggernaut gets a lot of access to chaos resistance, gets a lot of access to endurance charges, which can help make you tankier. It's in an area of the passive tree that has lots of life. The drawback, though, is that you're nowhere near any ways to scale chaos damage or to scale spell damage, really. So you'd have to make quite a skillgrimage. Alternately, though, I could also see people trying things with all manner of just the generalist ascendancies. Like you could conceivably use this with Assassin. Assassin has lots and lots of ways to scale critical strikes. So if you're looking to play this as a critical strike build, or for that matter, if you're looking to play it as a spell build that deals chaos hits and then poisons with them, there's lots of things you could do along those sorts of lines that are a little bit different. And so I would say go into it with an open mind. The actual serious theory crafting on Forbidden Rite will be something that we can do in about a week's time, a little bit less than a week actually, when we've got the 2020 skill gems. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. If you've got comments or questions, fire away below. Otherwise, I hope you have fun with 3.15 and with the 3.15 hype season, and may your Varlobs have interesting results.